Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the second episode of Future Hacker with Francisco Santolo. He's the official startup hacker by Forbes. Hi, Francisco. So good to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Maria.
So let's continue our conversation. I love how you said in the last episode how, we are still based on this very old model that for sure is going to change to a way that is actually going to be more meaningful, and it's going to be around value creation, right? Let's go into the disruptive technologies piece. So bringing it to the market, it is a real challenge. So when you are somebody trying to disrupt your own market, so first of all, you don't really know how disruption will happen before it takes place. It's something that happens. Also, selling this idea of something that is far from what we are used to do is a real challenge. And it's not only about the technologies, it's just doing something differently, right? And people will surely find all sorts of excuses due to their own biases to challenge you. I mean, being challenged is always really good, right? But still, you have to be extremely resilient in order to do not give up and really try to make your idea happen. It cannot work, but, still if it works, it might be a breakthrough. So do you have any advices for people that are trying to break the market for better, hopefully, right? For better.
I think it's good to go into this term, disruption, that many times it's misunderstood. And it's good to take this book of this professor we all admire a lot at Harvard, that is Clayton Christensen. He talks about it in the Innovator's Dilemma. It's a book of 1997, but it couldn't be more present, no? Because you read that book and everything that's happening right now, it's super linked to that book. It's fundamental. And in a sense, disruption, what we need to understand is disruption happens in an existing market. Disruption is not a technology per se. Disruption is when you take the market from someone else, when the incumbent is beaten by some new company that enters the market, and maybe it's not like the favorite to win the market. No one expects this will happen. And then there you mentioned timing, and it's interesting because disruption can come from technology. He explains this in the book, but it can also come from business models. And the most common disruption right now is business model disruption. Sometimes changing one of the components of your business model can change totally how the customers are served, and you can become unbeatable. And also business models are becoming like the main barrier to entry. They are replacing capital as the barrier to entry. But when you go back to disruption and think about timing, if you take technological disruption, the main thing you need to try to avoid, and my main advice is, don't believe that this idea that by having a good idea with an exponential technology and getting a lot of money in a pitch and getting into VC will allow you to disrupt an industry. In general, when VCs are giving you money for a certain idea and a certain vertical and with these exponential technologies, first they make you think that you can go for the mass market. They make you think that with this great idea and exponential technology and a lot of money, you can replace the incumbent in the mass market. And this is not true. Usually when you start with that, the technology is not mature enough. The technology is not ready to take the massive market. And when you read the Innovator's Dilemma, it's very clear that disruptive innovation doesn't start by focusing a massive market. It doesn't start by having the best technology. It starts by focusing a niche market outside the main market, maybe even in other vertical, and growing together with the technology. What you need to do is to start learning about the technology, learning about its applications, trying to anticipate the future of what this technology can do, trying to see which incumbents and which interesting markets you can beat in the future. But you need to clearly understand how the evolution of the technology will be, and you need to clearly understand where you're situated right now. There's a curve called the Gardner hypercycle curve that maps the evolution of the exponential technologies in time, and it links it to the expectations. And it's super interesting because it tells you that in the beginning you have a peak of expectations. in which people believe this is gonna boom, that's the moment where everyone is investing on these technologies and everyone is raising money and everyone wants to take it to the maximum. And then you have a valley of disillusion that we've seen recently happen with Bitcoin like several years ago. Now we saw it happen a couple of weeks ago also. I believe Bitcoin can be entering a more mature scenario because after the valley of disillusion, you go into the slope of enlightenment. Maybe with Bitcoin, we are already in the slope of enlightenment, which means that the technology starts being, in this case, blockchain starts being mature enough for mass adoption. But you will always have these expectations that are overhyped and then under, and then only then it will become something more massive. So if you understand that performance of the exponential technologies, you can really act in a way in which when the technology is developing itself and it's going to go quick, even if it seems it's not, because it's kind of deceptive. In the beginning, you can always find a niche that can use the technology in its current state. And then you will be able to find a niche, maybe in another vertical, and margins will start growing. And whenever you realize you build the network in the system, the network with the people that are stakeholders linked to this technology, you can get the suppliers, you can talk to the producers, you can talk to the governments, and everyone positions you as an expert in this technology. And when the time comes, you can certainly attack the incumbent in the main market. But it's a process of learning and cashing out and doing good businesses while you advance. And this idea of not working only in one vertical and being able to have flexible business models and adapt over time, it's key for the new methodologies. It's fundamental to be able to adapt over time, to be able to, when a coronavirus hits, understand where it's hitting your business model, where it's hitting other competitors, where it's hitting your suppliers, where it's hitting your customers, understands how the needs and gains change and how you need to adapt and have asset-light structures and have low operative costs to be able to switch the things quicker, to be able to build innovation and new businesses quicker, to be able to adapt. And if you already develop your business by growing together with the technology you're following, in a sense, you're building a culture of innovation that will help you a lot in the future. The future is going to be of companies like we see now in Amazon that completely and continuously switches their business models and innovates and launches things in totally new verticals, leveraging parts of their business models that they discover they work very well. And I say they discover because sometimes that process is very random. They launch something and it doesn't work the way they imagine 99% of the times, but something in the business model works and gives them another idea to flexibly go forward again.
And that's something I've been hearing a lot for our previous guest, Francisco, is how important it is to be open to changing your own business and doing it quick, being it fast, right? And everything you said now, I hope people just go back a little and hear that again, because it's a lot, not only great ideas, but really good advices that you gave. So Francisco, you're a big supporter of this collaborative network in which people help each other and exchange information openly. I'm also a fan of that, but most cultures don't really have it on their DNA. And, we are taught, I can't say for Latin America, but, for sure you're more experienced getting to know other cultures, but we're taught here that everyone around us is a competitor.
Yes.
Yes, it affects trust, empathy, and, the exchange of valuable experience that could help us learn from each other. It just doesn't happen. So how to overcome that when it's something that is so inputted on the culture? For sure, this is something that you have been doing everywhere, right?
No, it's interesting because you see this totally different in different countries, and it's totally linked to the culture. And the culture, in a sense, it's totally modified by the incentives and rules and processes and norms and how the society is built. There's a lot of possibility to influence that. In some cases, it's the government. In some cases, it's institutions. You see every corporation, every company, even every SME that it's built out there, the founders have a lot of possibilities of developing the right incentives for culture to be different. That's why it's totally different country by country, religion by religion, company by company. In a sense, what I've discovered, and it's very important, human beings, we're all very similar. Superficially, we are totally diverse. And one-on-one, we are also totally diverse. But the main things about a human being, love, caring, respect, don't want to be hated by anyone, whatever, it's kind of the same. And in this sense, there are good incentives for people to behave in a different way. And you can see even in the most non-networking cultures, the most competitive ones, the ones that privilege competition over collaboration. Of course, you also have institutions where things work differently. And you can see when a corporation changes its CEO, it's unbelievable. When you're working in a corporation and the CEO changes and the leadership style changes, we human beings have a tendency to adapt to the right incentives immediately. You immediately see everyone around, your own peers, behaving in a totally different way. They adapt immediately. So for example, in Scalabl, we have people from 50 countries. And we have a culture of collaboration, of networking, of giving first. And you join the network and everyone is behaving in a scalable way. It doesn't matter from where they are. Maybe in the beginning, there's a trend to follow what you're used to. But when you discover the benefits of relating to diverse people and you discover how the best ideas come from the most diverse and unexpected person, then things start happening. And the future is about diversity. The future is about respecting others. The future is about many others with a lot of power taking decisions. We can't stop. It won't be possible to go to a Senate and make a vote and decide how the society is going to work. The world that comes is a world of freedom. It's a world where everyone will have power to make things happen, and control won't be so easy as today. Corporations are getting weaker. Really, there's a concentration in which a couple of them are getting very strong and the rest are getting weaker. But in the long term, I think there will be a lot of power in communities linked by values, linked by purpose, linked by working through crowdsourcing, working through adding value to others. So I think we need to learn from the ones who do it best. And the interesting thing is, as leaders, to understand the right incentives to change how people behave within your space of influence. In a sense, we're competitive because we've been taught that way. If you think how the corporations were organized, everything was organized through the Industrial Revolution for productivity to be higher. It's very linked to Taylorism. And when you're focusing on productivity, of course, from the company's point of view and from the government's GDP, it's better for people to compete. Because in a sense, in a world where you only needed production at scale to be able to reach people with the best generic product possible without personalization, okay, the most we compete, the most we produce, the better we are in certain skills. But when the world becomes a place where adaptability, flexibility, creativity, collaboration, emotional intelligence, relating with others becomes the more important thing, besides producing in an assembly line, you can't train people to compete. You can't train people to try to be the best. You need to train people to win-win. You need to train people to build more. It's incredible what you can achieve by the same group of people who were competing to start collaborating. And the world is generating the incentives for people to behave in a different way, and it will be more horizontal and it will be more collaborative, and the companies which remain in this competition, I want to win mindset, are not getting the benefits of the future.
So talking about learning with the good examples out there and taking into account all those skills that you just mentioned, and that, it's going to be unavailable to prepared to act like that in the future, or else you're out of the game. So which cultures do you see that, are more prepared today to face these futures? Who should we be looking for, as an example?
I'm very impressed with Asia, especially East Asia. I'm very impressed on how they are facing the future and the speed they move and the mindset they have and the ambition they have and how they are I think they are not tied to so many misconceptions. Like maybe the West has had a lot of success, or some countries in the West, taking Europe, United States. When you have a lot of success by doing things in one way, for example, England was the country leading this industrial revolution and the last wave of how organizations work, whatever, then United States, you kind of get trapped that it's the best way of doing it, and then you can't adapt so easily. For example, when I teach in my MBA, or when I teach to CEOs or very senior people, it's much more difficult for them to adapt to what I'm teaching than when I teach to first-year bachelors or people who are starting their careers. Then when they catch it, they become super powerful. They apply it in an amazing way. But the more you know that things are in a way, and the more we weren't taught about unlearning, it's more complex. So I like Asia as a whole. There, for example, UAE is a very interesting country, but I admire India a lot. The startup ecosystem in India is something totally unique in my perspective. Maybe it's not the traditional startup ecosystem that everyone talks about, with a lot of investment and liquidity and venture capital, which I believe it's fantastic. And I think it's why it's so good in many ways. But I think I like it too much because I've seen in India associations in which people bond together and business people bond together and help each other and support each other and build things collaboratively that I haven't seen anywhere. Like I'm a charter member of TIE, that is the Indus Entrepreneurs. I had the privilege of starting in that position like 3 years ago. I couldn't imagine I was ever going to be invited to something like this, but it's a privilege. To grow our company in India, we had a lot of support of young Indians and confederations of Indian industry. I met them in the G20. And how they continuously build activities, network, help each other, visit each other, give ideas, even from totally different verticals. How the industries are integrated, how, for example, from universities on, people are taught to become entrepreneurs and innovators, the humbleness, the passion, the shining eyes you see in the students there. And these accelerators or incubators in the universities, they're totally focused on knowledge. They're focused on real technology. They're focused on business, on doing things for others, on solving problems. India is one of the leading countries in social business, like impact business or B companies, in which they solve problems of society while you win good money. Like you have a big market and you have many problems, so it's a green field to doing things. And you can see how Indians succeed abroad. Harvard University Dean is Indian. You check the CEOs of the main companies and you see Indians in leading positions. And I believe it's all about this caring networking. For example, in TIE, when we do the annual meeting, we always fly and travel and meet each other, the charter members somewhere. They not only meet themselves, you have all these successful people and they take their families. So their young kids are all there, and you can grow by accompanying, in a sense, the growth of these young people. And whoever has a problem in the future, that kid, in a sense, has the support network of every one of those business people. Family is important, community, taking care of others. I admire it a lot. I think India is an amazing place to be, and I bet on them.
Francisco, I just love how you consider yourself an optimistic, right?
Yes, 100%.
You can see that, and the way you view the world and the way you view the future of work and people and humanity is. I really hope we are going this path. It's really inspiring, and everybody. I think you all already noticed that I went through a Scalabl course, so it's really something that I recommend, right, Francisco? So, I really appreciate all the work you're doing and putting people together to build this really network of people that are all trying to be the best and helping each other. So it's really amazing.
When we help each other, we all dream things that we believe are impossible, and we fight for it and work for it. And what's impossible for us is super easy for someone else. Everything that happens in the world is facilitated by someone. It's always human beings. In the end, what we want is things from human beings. So instead of working so hard or producing more than we need, we just need to have the right conversations. We need to know the right people. We need to use other type of tools.
That's perfect. So Francisco, thank you so much for being with us today. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I'm going to leave you if you have any final words for our listeners. The word is yours, and thanks a lot for being here at Future Hacker.
Thank you, Maria. It's been a pleasure. I follow every episode, and what you're doing, it's unbelievable. So thank you so much. What I want to end by saying is, I believe the future is going to advance at a speed that we won't be able even to comprehend. This bunny thing and the incomprehensible as the eye, I think it's fantastic. I was going to say that it's not that we as human beings, our human nature is to have stability and try to have order and to start to have control. I think that's what we've learned in the last 200 years by mistake. Our ancestors were dying from any sickness any moment. They were eaten by lions. They were going around and being bitten by a snake. It's not that it's our real nature. The world is complex. The world is full of black swans. I'm an optimist because the only way to live a happy life is to be able to get the best of every obstacle. It's our decision. It's our interpretation. From everything that happens, we have the chance of making it better for us and the rest, or not. What I want to say is the world is going to advance in a way that we are facing real dangers of destroying our race or hurting ourselves more than we've been hurting ourselves for all these years. It's very cruel how we live by life and how we accept others live and what we're doing with the world. And we have a real opportunity here. And each of us will be more powerful than ever, and each of us can make a huge transformation. Nowadays, this idea of banning non-linear is that the cause and effect are not clear anymore. Whatever we say, however we act, whatever we do will multiply itself and become like a butterfly effect. What you say in front of someone in a social network can transform that person's attitude or maybe someone else when he speaks with them or she speaks with them. And maybe they impact the world in a great way just related to what you said, to the attitude you had, to an answer you gave, to something you said when you were driving. We all need to be very responsible of everything we do. We have more impact than ever before for making the future a better place. And I think we need to learn from young generations and start watching them and understanding how they are driven by purpose and taking care of others and worrying about the environment and worrying about people. And I think it's gonna be a learning journey. Relationships and learning gonna be the most important things, and it's the moment to start understanding we need to behave in another way and we need to be much better. And the reward can be huge for the world and our descendants. So that's my final thoughts today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you so much, Maria.
Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.